Without further ado, I think we can get started with the meat and potatoes here. So we're going to get started with Avid Exchange. So I'm going to turn the wheel over to Channel Sales Manager Mike Johnson with Avid Exchange. Mike.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much. So just want to test. Oh, there we go. Make sure that you can see my screen. Thank you for turning on the controls. So just verify that you can see my screen.
Yep, looks good.
Great. So I appreciate everybody's time, particularly on the beginning of August. Hard to believe that we've already gone through most of the summer. We're rushing towards the end of Q3. Hate to put panic on in the meeting, but it's almost going to be the end of the year before we know it. So we appreciate you taking time out today to meet with us and to learn a little bit more about how we automate and help GP users automate the AP process. My name is Mike Johnson. I've been with the company going on 3 years. I've been a business owner, an entrepreneur. I've worked in payment automation for the last 5 years. Joined Avid Exchange when customers consistently ask me, what about automating the invoices? So we're based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. All of our services and development are done there. We're a high growth company. Based on last fall, we received an investment from Bain Capital, KeyBank, and others to help scale our technology and grow out our infrastructure and hire people. So we apply technology. We're a SaaS model, so we're in the cloud, so no hardware, software needs to be purchased. And we help take the paper out of the AP process. What we do here at Avid day in and day out is really solve a common business problem, and that is paper invoices and paper checks. So we've moved way beyond it in our consumer experience on paying bills online as we do on a weekend, but we come to work and still print checks and process paper invoices. So technology is here. I find that automating the AP process is more of a journey than a sprint. There's generally some compelling event that's happening within an organization, whether it's people retiring, new people coming on board, acquisitions, merger, a fraud event that kind of triggers a reaction to say, hey, it's time to automate our AP process. So I appreciate your time this morning and look for the opportunity. Every meeting obviously needs a good agenda. So within the 15 minutes we've got to spend with you, we've come up with what is accounts payable and AP automation, why automate the top 3 benefits. There are certainly plenty more than 3, but we will focus on just top 3 for today, and we'll do a live demo. So what is AP automation? Let's take a look at it. For some of you, I recognize some of the names that are here with us today, Teresa and Howard. We've probably seen this before. An invoice comes in. Typically, it's done via paper or email today. Somebody's opening it, either downloading an email, printing it, or opening up a physical envelope. They may be attaching a purchase order to match with that invoice. They're routing it out typically via SneakerNet, interoffice, email. The approvers are then coding and maybe making some form of mark on an invoice saying it's okay to pay, and it routes its way back to the accounting system where somebody is responsible for doing the data entry into GP. So all of this equates to time. And just as you do on the invoice, you have the payment process. So when we're ready to pay our vendors, we typically, today's business, we're still seem to be enamored here in the U.S. with paper checks. We're slowly getting rid of that as more customers and more companies look at ways to automate that process through their banks or through partnerships or utilizing services like ours to stop printing checks. But today it's about 50%. We're printing checks, we're sending them out to the vendor, we're filing something in a filing cabinet, and then research is really a manual phenomenon. What you see here in today's world, we've been doing this for 16 years, is available to our customers is really to take out all those steps. And what you see crossed out here is replaced by not only a technology but also people. Yep. We make sure that the technology delivers on its promise by building a layer of touch points that guarantee that you'll have an accurate invoice to process and that your vendors are being communicated to properly when it comes from invoices to payments. So there's no need to receive the invoice, there's no need to open the mail, there's no need to attach a PO. Routing is through automated workflows and approvals. You remain in charge of coding in the approval process, and when it comes back or finds its way back to the AP department, we are integrated with GP. We do that in a couple different forms, and we could talk certainly more about how we do that. Howard knows that we've been working fast and furious to do a direct integration with GP, but we also have a default process that we've been using for the last decade, which is just a simple file process that you upload into your GP as an open payable. And just as we do on invoice, we can automate the process of payments. And the real key message there is to reduce or eliminate fraud potential, but we do that mirroring your current process in a really low to no change. So when you're ready to pay your vendors, you simply send that file to your Avid Pay solution, and then we facilitate payments on your behalf to your vendors in the way they want to be paid. In some cases, that does include a paper check, because not all vendors, maybe the landscaper or somebody comes into some plumbing or electrical work, they'll want a physical check. We'll certainly process a check, but we do offer two forms of electronic payment. The advantage to the vendor is they get their money sooner. They also get a remittance detail that sometimes is a challenge to supply to them. And because it starts electronically, it's stored electronically. So research is a mobile phenomenon. We don't have a specific mobile app, but I can certainly show people that are on the webinar if they'd like to follow up with how it looks like on an iPhone, an Android, or on an iPad to show you. So benefits really are, we're going to talk about three. The average paper invoice, these comes out of PayStream Advisor, Aberdeen, well-known research groups that publish this and do all this data research for us. It's about $9. And automated is about $1.50 per invoice. That's exactly what we charge for our customers to process paper invoices. That's not per page, that's per invoice. The average cost for a paper check when you consider toner, stamps, envelopes, paper, time, labor is about $7.15, so an electronic payment through our payment automation through us is 68 cents. So what increases all these costs is a need for manual labor and intervention. Due to data entry and purchase orders, POs, shippings, there's all these things that are going on, as you know, in your AP department that are escalating the costs. And I know for one person that's on the phone, somebody retired, so now 20 hours that she was spending, or 5 to 10 hours a week, is now 20, and continues to increase as they do not add, as people tend not to add more people to these processes. So they're looking to put their people in better positions to help the organization grow or maintain. The benefit number two is that automating greatly reduces the risk of check fraud. That's right, because check today in the business, just Google check fraud and you'll get countless stories. There's one up here in New Hampshire with a bookkeeper who walked away with over $300,000 by simply creating dummy invoices and rerouting money to a bank account. They finally caught him when they did an audit and saw that there was some weird behavior going on to vendors they had no knowledge of. So actually 48% of all payment fraud can be tracked back to paper checks. As we process, as I mentioned earlier, paper checks out to vendors, we've actually caught people washing the signature lines on checks. The data is not secure in a paper base. Obviously, people get it in an envelope and try to, if you've seen copiers these days, it's a wonder it's not more rampant. And then automation, really in the automation process that we introduce to our customers, it enforces those strict rules that govern the ability to approve a payment, to process a payment, and then to execute on the payment. There's all this approval workflow that we back behind the payment process along with positive pay. Some of you may be required by your banks or have signed up with your banks to have positive pay. We do all fraud protection and monitoring at the payment level. Benefit number three, eliminating paper and the tedious manual work. We all know how long it takes to do that. We've got a gentleman who's been with the company, he's employee number 3, and has written several books on AP automation. We'd be happy to share you. One of it's called The 8 Pitfalls. He really recounts a day in the life of an AP person on their way into work and what they have to do and all the paper that's associated with it. So there's no more opening and stuffing of mail, no more scanning and filling out of invoices. Coding is something that has intelligence built into it. Approving invoices builds its own audit trail so that people know who, when, and what, when they open up the invoice, what they did. So, printing and signing and mailing checks is completely eliminated. So the audit trail is really one of the benefits that I hear repeatedly from people when I show them the technology. That they go, wow, that's pretty cool. One of my businesses, when I ran it, I was audited. It was not a pleasant experience to have a gentleman sitting in my conference room for 1 to 2 weeks asking for my staff to go out and pull files out of the filing cabinet. So we store all data, 7+ years. We've been in business for 16 now. We haven't thrown anything away, so you have access to data online. It's at your fingertips. It's mobile. So research and support becomes a mobile phenomenon in your day and your life. So the 5 ways that we get invoices into the Avid Exchange solution. Today we typically receive them the way your vendors send them. That's via email or via paper. Your vendor may actually still mail you invoices. We're seeing a lot of shift here and from vendors realizing, hey, email's free. I don't have to print something, put it in an envelope, put a stamp on it, and send it out. So, and one of my favorite ones is that people tell me that not only vendors email them, but they also mail them. I think they're thinking that they send it to you twice, maybe they'll get paid twice as fast. So whether it's email or paper or U-scan, that's typically the business case where somebody walks in, says, hey, I bought this, here's the invoice, and then the finance department has to process it. You can simply on a flatbed scanner send it into your unique email address at AvidXchange. We'll extract it. We'll create a PDF, and I'll show you that in a demo in a few minutes. We'll analyze it, and that's the people layer. What we're looking here is for duplicate invoices, and we've always maintained, as our customers have required us to maintain, is that accounting system, be it GP, is the kingdom. That's where everything is built, everything on their business process is maintained. So we're looking for net new vendors that haven't been set up in your GP system. We sync data back and forth between AvidXchange and GP. So we're communicating and collaborating with you on things like duplicate invoices, net new vendors, maybe invoices as you've seen them all. We've seen them all come in all shapes and sizes. Sometimes they're legible, sometimes they're not. And then we simply deliver it to the people in your organization. So I wanted to jump into a quick demonstration here just to give you a taste. So this is people are notified via email that they have an invoice waiting for them, and this is how they get triggered. So it comes in via your phone or your tablet or your email. They can be scheduled. They're notified that an invoice is waiting for them. This is their work queue. These are all the invoices that have been assigned to. We're logging in today as Marie Cannon. So you can see that she gets a view of the information, all the invoices waiting, the due dates, the vendor, maybe specific totals on the invoice, some actions that are required on behalf of her. Typically I find that all our clients have that gatekeeper within the AP department who receives the invoices, is going to do a quick view, and then it's going to trigger the workflow out to the others in the organization to have to do the approval. Let's take a look at just an invoice to give you a quick view of it. Now this is the PDF image. Let me just minimize this so you can see the image. Actually, let's blow up the image. So this is the PDF file. You can zoom in so you can see the exact the scan of the image. And then what we have over on the side is that we split out during scanning we verify all the header line detail, the invoice number, the totals, due dates, etc., vendor, customer account if it is required, the entity, the invoice pending, all this information is here, start dates, service dates, etc., are captured for you. So secondly, in this invoice comes the coding information. So down here in this section, we show the coding. We have three forms of coding. One is manual. The other is auto or smart coding. The other two are auto or smart coding. You turn those on. This is your portal. You're controlling the process. So if a vendor and an invoice is supposed to be coded the same way, the system will intelligently capture that code and apply it here. But you're always in charge of coding. We can simply type in an alpha. We build the portal with your codes in mind. So you can see all the different codes that apply to this supplies electrical. You can capture a description. We can do distributions, which are simply I'm going to add multiple line items and then split this out over different departments, different locations, different entities by dollar or percentage amount. Down here I have the workflow. The workflow is really capturing who in the organization is going to see this. We work on a role and rule. Role is simply your job within the organization. The rule is what governs you, such as review, code, and approve. So this is, you can look at this and track, who's touched it, where they are, and this all rolls up to that audit trail. This is showing you in detail all the information specific to this invoice on who touched it, what time they touched it, what they did when they're in the invoice. All that data is captured. So this is the audit trail. We don't work in a restricted seat or site license. You're not buying a book of users, so you're in control of who has access, what they can do, what they can see when they're in your portal. So we have had customers invite their vendors in, have had auditors come in so they can do their own search query, pull up this audit trail and see specifically what happened to the invoice and date. It also acts as a trigger. I know we all have them in our organization. We endearingly call them laggards. Those are the folks that essentially are late to the game. They don't approve invoices when we need them to. So you can set up the system to kindly poke them, remind them that they have invoices waiting for them so you don't have to. You can comment and collaborate. You can collaborate internally or externally by using your directory. So you can say to a fellow employee, I have questions regarding this invoice, or out to a vendor. So I've shown several of people on the phone this ability to collaborate with them. Hey, call me. They'll get a link back to the invoice in question so you can have an informed conversation when they do call back. You can attach things to the invoice. These things may be receiving documents if you're dealing with purchase orders, or they may be insurance documents or images. I have a customer that I asked what she uses this for. She captures the entire email string that she's had with a vendor and stores it here. So it's related to that specific invoice. So she can see all that information at her fingertips. So basically, that's a quick view. As we do, we're going to be running out of time, and I want to give the other panelists an opportunity. But as I show you an automation on the invoice, we actually automate the payment process. Very similar to this. Within GP, when you're ready to pay, you just send us a file that includes all the payment information, the vendor, the payment amount, and then we'll execute on that, and we'll pay the vendor in the way that they prefer to be paid. So there's a lot of communication and support behind the payment process. One of the nice added features of this is we're migrating and helping our customers migrate more vendors to electronic payments, is that those vendors that are willing to sign up for a virtual credit card or part of our electronic payment network pay a small service charge, and that comes back to you, the customer, as a monthly rebate. So lots of exciting things are going on in the AP world, all predicated upon saving you time. That's exactly what we do day in and day out here at Avid Exchange, is we give back our customers time they could be spending on more valuable functions or roles or opportunities or tasks within their organization. So that's it for me. I appreciate the time I spent with you. We're going to have a Q&A after this, and I guess I need to turn it over to Lisa, you on? Am I turning it over to?
Yeah, I'll take it back from you. How about that?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Mike. That was great.
You're welcome.
So like Mike said, we are going to have that Q&A session after a few more presentations here. So stick around for that. Next up, we have Brian Maxon, who is the Director of Sales with Journyx. So Brian, I will make you the presenter here and let you take it away.
Awesome. So I just shared my screen. Hopefully everybody can see that.
Yep, looks good.
Excellent. And all right, so as Mike so eloquently led me into my presentation here, time is very important, which is what I'm going to talk to you guys about, is just sort of a better way to track your time and expenses within GP. Just a little bit about our company. We're actually based in Austin, Texas. Got about 1,200 customers or so, ranging as small as, say, 25 and as large as 10,000. We've been doing this for a really long time, 20 years, and time and expense tracking is what we do. We get a lot of experience within our team to help, do best practices and implement solutions around time and expense tracking. So just a quick view of some of our different customers that use GP. You can see it's all over the place from an industry standpoint, from utilities to home health care, engineering. It's sort of all over the place. So the main reasons that people need to track time and expense with Journyx, and those range anything from doing project cost accounting, so you can measure your costs and your profitability on projects. And those might be like research and development type companies. You've got people that need to be able to bill their customers, so collecting time on projects or jobs to bill people. You have people that just need to pay their employees, like Mike was talking about. And in addition to that, some of our customers really need to be able to keep track of their resources, so you can manage your resources with Journyx. And then we have a lot of customers that also do have the need to be able to keep in compliance. So whether they are working on government contracts and need to have DCAA compliance, or maybe that home health care that need HIPAA compliance and things like that, Journyx really helps people with that compliance aspect as well. So we did a poll to a bunch of GP end customers, actually through MS Dynamics, and probably the top 3 time tracking challenges that came out of that survey were, number 1, trying to get people to do timesheets on time. Really, nobody likes to track time, so if it's not really simple, it's not going to get done, especially in a timely fashion. The second one is probably the biggest pain that people experience, and that is trying to fix or correct bad information that's being captured before it gets over to GP. This is probably one of the biggest AP or payroll administrators' nightmares, is trying to fix bad data. And then the third thing is that, while the solution may integrate with GP, a lot of times there's some other critical business systems out there that need this information, and it's just not really easy to do out of the box with some of the solutions that are available. So talk to you a little bit about how we can actually help customers that need to track time and expenses and integrate that into GP and maybe some other business systems. So whether people are doing things on paper or Excel right now, or even some of the GP solutions, like older ones like Business Portal, or even some of the self-services tools, there's not really a real simple and easy way to collect all of your data in one place. So when you need to track time and expenses in one area, instead of having to hop back and forth to different areas, Journyx really helps you guys do that. The second thing is probably maybe one of the biggest ones, again, is creating what we call data validation rules on the data entry process. So hopefully you can eliminate most of those corrections up front on the front end before it gets through the workflow process and into GP. We also have a concept of what we call a custom entry, and that can be used from doing things to tracking like equipment utilization, say in like a field services type company, or we've got a home health care company that tracks what they call special pay or bonuses in the application, and all that information can be fed into GP as well. As I mentioned before, in addition to tracking time and expense, so if you need the ability to plan out your resources on a project, so you can make those decisions on, do I have enough resources? Do I have the right resources? Do I need to outsource some of these projects that are coming down the pipeline? Journyx can really help you answer those questions as well. For some of our crew-based entry, people, you're talking about like field services type companies, utilities. Journyx gives you the ability to enter time for multiple people at once in one sheet. So we call it sort of a crew-based or supervisor-based time and expense entry. Of course, in today's modern world, we've got Journyx as a web-based application, whether that's hosted with us or on-premise on your server. But of course, we also support that through mobile devices. So whether it be iOS or Android, we do have a native Journyx app that you can track your time and expense and do your approvals. Speaking of approving, we do give you the ability to have multiple layers of approval. So you can have up to 5 levels of approval, primary and backup approver within each level. So there's a lot of flexibility around approving timesheets. We do have a concept also of both a sheet-based approval and a project-based approval process, which we can get into a little bit more detail here in a second. We do also give you the ability to both calculate and track time off, and whether that be directly on the sheet, we also give you the ability to do what we call a leave request, which is basically tracking time off in advance. I mentioned before the whole idea of compliance, whether that be around government contracts or healthcare related data. We allow you to keep track of that. And then again, we not only integrate with GP, but we can integrate with some of your other critical business systems, maybe like a Microsoft project, whether it be a third-party payroll system like an ADP. We also do even support the Canadian payroll within GP, and of course things like CRM and other solutions like that. So just to give you a quick overview of the Journyx solution, this is sort of our standard time and expense entry screen. Again, the whole concept of being able to track all of your data in one simple screen. If the user interface is not simple, it's not going to be done quickly or accurately. So a lot of the solutions that are available out there are a little bit clunky, a lot of clicks. Journyx is pretty straightforward and simple and allows you to track your time and expense and time off all in one place. I mentioned as far as doing time off requests, Journyx allows you to do request time off through a completely different workflow process with email notifications and a calendaring system, all within the same interface. I mentioned also the expenses. It looks just like the timesheet. Again, the same simple concept of tracking everything in one place. But we also give you the ability to attach receipt images, upload files from your credit card company, all in, with the goal of trying to make this whole process of data entry as simple as possible for the employee. This custom entry screen, again, is something that you can really use to track any other type of data that might be required for measuring your cost on projects or paying your employees. This is where one of our healthcare companies, again, tracks that special pay that they capture in this screen, and we feed that into the payroll process within GP. The data validation is, again, something that we've got in place that really a lot of solutions don't, that allow you to really hopefully eliminate or greatly reduce the errors that are made on the data entry on the front end. So not only can we build in certain data validation entry rules, but this is also where we could build in all of your different overtime rules and things like that, so that when the information is going to be fed over to GP, hopefully it's mostly accurate and it's gone through all of those calculations, so you don't have to do that manually and risk any sort of manual intervention around that. Managing resources, again, is something that's available within Journyx, whether you're trying to determine what your people are working on, how available they are. We've got tools to be able to do that within the Journyx solution as well, including providing end users a different view that allows them to see what they're supposed to be working on, when those things are supposed to be done, and how much effort they're supposed to be spending on those different projects. This is a view of our our crew-based or supervisor-based entry screen, where again, one manager or supervisor can fill out the timesheets for their crew or their staff all in one user interface without having to open a bunch of different timesheets to do that. This is just basically some screenshots of our mobile interface. So again, you can track your time and your expenses and do your approvals all through a mobile interface. And I mentioned before, from our multi-layered workflow process, you can do approvals at both the sheet level and also at the project-based approval level. And then this is just really our time off request calendaring system, where you can see on one screen over whatever period that you would like all the people that have requested time off, and it's pretty evident which people have been approved, declined, or pending. Again, it's real critical that Journyx sits in the middle of all your different business systems, so we're going to capture all that time and expense data, and of course we're going to feed that to GP. But again, here's just some of the other different business systems that are pretty critical to some people that we can feed that information to out of the box without you having to do a lot of customization or configuration to get that done. And so that's it for me. Hopefully provide you guys a lot of interesting information around time and expense data. If you have any questions, then definitely please let me know. Otherwise, I'll turn it back over to you guys.
Perfect. Thanks, Brian. All righty. So next up, we have, last but certainly not least, I'm a little biased here at this one, Alicia Weigel, Technical Sales Team Lead at Rockton Software. She is here to talk to us and show us SmartFill.
Thanks, Elise.
Yeah.
I had myself on mute.
Yeah, there you go. Now we can hear you.
Now you can hear me. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you, guys. This has been awesome so far. Definitely have learned a lot about some of these additional products that are out there, so I hope you guys are enjoying the presentations. Today, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about our SmartFill product, but I know we've got some fans of our other products that have been presented here today. So if you're not familiar with Rockton Software, just a little bit of background. We've been in the Dynamics GP circles since 1999, so really, really long time. And we specialize in 5 specific products that make GP work simpler and easier. So we've got stuff for auditing, reporting, pricing, a whole gamut of products and services that kind of just make the day-to-day a little bit better for you. So I'm going to show you today our most popular product, which is our GP Smart Fill. And if you've never heard of it, I'd be surprised. But if you've not heard of it, basically what this product allows you to do is search for key records in GP without clicking on the magnifying glass. So when you think of Google, you type in what you're searching for. So if you're searching for pizza, and it's going to start giving you a list. You type pizza and you get that list that drops below, and it's things like, you know, you might get Domino's, Papa John's, pizza crust, pizza calories, you don't want to look at that, pizza sauce, different pizza things related, and that's kind of how Smart Fill works for finding key records. So rather than clicking on the lookup, you can just type what you're looking for and we'll go find it for you. So I'm not going to do much in the PowerPoint world here. Basically, it's going to customize super easy, and I'll show you guys some of those steps, and it's going to integrate in with third-party products. So if they're dexterity-based, we can work with those too. So we might be able to tie into the time and expense product that you just looked at. I'll have to talk to them and see if they are, in fact, dexterity-based. But that's some of the other options that you guys can use this with. And it comes already pre-set up, which is huge. If you don't want to spend a lot of time or money working on, you know, customizing it, implementing it so that it's exactly the way you want, it's super easy to use, but out of the box, it's already set up, working in over 3,700 searches. So let's take a look at the product because that makes it so much easier. All right. And I am just going to quick mute a line that is humming in the background here. There we go. Okay. So first place we're going to take a look at this is accounts, because everybody's got accounts and people have lots of accounts. So when you're in the account maintenance window to start with, a lot of times you spend your day clicking on the little magnifying glass, because I'm sure you've got your top 25, maybe even 50 accounts memorized. You can type these in like a crazy person. But there's going to be times where you use those account numbers that you can't quite remember off the top of your head. Or maybe you've got a really long account structure, and typing all those numbers in, you might miss a few of them here and there, and then, you know, do you want to add this account? No. So you kind of have that back and forth, and you spend that time during the day adding those extra keystrokes and clicks. So if I know what I'm looking for in an account, I can type what I'm looking for. So let's say we're looking for a labor account. I can type labor right across the number field, which would normally throw me an error message, and I can hit my tab key. And Smart Fill goes to work, goes through the entire chart of accounts, and this make a selection window is Smart Fill. So it went through everything that I had, and it based it on these 3 search criteria, so account number, the description, and the alias. It looked for labor anywhere in this description and brought it back. Doesn't have to be the first word by any means. It can be just somewhere in that description. So now I've got 15 results instead of maybe 1,500 results to sort through. And if this list is still really long, I can subset search this as well. So I could say, you know, I'm looking for my WIP labor accounts. So let's type WIP, hit tab. Now we're down to 3. Really quick and easy. The amount of time it takes me to sort that is nil. And now I can just double click and it's going to fill that window in right for me. If there's only one result, which is kind of cool, I know I only have one petty cash account, the window just fills in. So you save all of those extra seconds that it takes to click on the looking glass and then sort the list and then scroll the list. It's right there for you. And this is going to work at the transaction level too. So when you're thinking about how long does it take you to enter a journal entry, that's going to be a huge time saver for you. but it does not work just in accounts. So we are going to go and look at payroll, because you guys probably have employees. So if you come into payroll, instead of having to know this employee ID number, which I'm sure is hard to remember if you've got a lot of employees, you can just type their name, which is handy because we know who the people are that work for us. So let's look for John. This is going to go through, and we've got a few different criteria that we're searching for this. So we're looking at that employee ID. It's got John somewhere in there. Maybe the first name is John, the last name Johnson. There we go. You can even add things like their birthdays. So you can kind of get this list going. It's almost like a little smart list, but way faster. And again, same rules apply. If there's only one person, maybe you only have one Aaron in your account or in your employees, it's going to populate for you. So again, at that transaction level, when you're building that paycheck batch, this could save you a lot of time. So I want to show you also quickly how you customize this. So we're going to look at the vendor list, and we're going to look up travel. And this is going through and searching all my vendors for travelers. So we've got it in that vendor ID, vendor name, and class, but maybe as an end user, it's going to be easier for me to search on something else. So I can customize this, and I'm going to show you that you do not need to be a developer to do so. So we're going to go out to SmartFill. It's this little blue R at the top. We're going to grab our different objects, and these, by the way, are all of the objects that come with the product when you buy it. So these are already set up and configured. So this isn't anything special that I've done to my system. It's just going out and whipping through these because it's already pre-set up for me. But if I want to tweak it a little bit so that it's more the way I want to be able to search, I can double-click on vendors, open this up. Now you've got lots of options here. You could link additional tables. You can create calculated fields. You can search note information, things like that. But it's already set up just to work with my vendor master. So I can search by anything in that vendor master. So if it's easier for me to search by their city, maybe I want to know what locations they're in, or I could also say, let's also add state. Come down here, we'll grab their state. We'll search and display that. This little panel down here lets you kind of tweak the way the make a selection window is going to lay out, so you can expand on column widths and things like that. You hit save, you hit OK, and you're done. So that did not take a degree at all to work in. So let's go and now search by city. We'll look at Chicago. Voila. Now we're searching Chicago in that vendor ID, the name, and then that city location as well. So really, really simple to use. So now I'm just going to put it all together for you guys, and we'll call it good at that point. But let's take a look at it at the transaction level. So we're going to pop into a sales invoice here. Let's grab a customer. See what we got under West. We're going to sell the West Side Cable Service. I'm going to look for something green in my items. How cool is that? When I search items, I get that green, but we did a little customization in here too. Just using a calculated field, I can show quantity available and quantity on hand. And like I had mentioned before, I can search those notes. So these are notes right on the item. It's looking for the word green. So in here, I've got something green going on. So just another cool way to see that. I can grab that phone cover, tab through, and my invoice is basically done at that point. I can save it, post it, do whatever I need to do, and that took me a matter of seconds. So that is what I wanted to show you guys with SmartFill. Just a couple things to be aware of with Rockton in general. We offer free trials of all of our products. So if you want to see how this works in your company, using your own data, playing with it, seeing if it works for everybody in the system, you're certainly welcome to let us know. You can contact us at sales@rocktonsoftware.com, and we'll send you a free full 30-day key that you can test it out, use it in your test company, use it in your live company. Don't use it, completely up to you, but that option is always there for you. And if there's any questions on it, let us know here at the end of the webinar, or you can always just email questions into us as well. And again, it's just sales@rocktonsoftware.com. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Elise and see what we've got in the line of questions.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Alicia. All righty. So before we get into questions, I am going to just launch this poll. As it is a collaborative webinar, we want to make sure that we can follow up with a purpose. So if you could just submit an answer, that would be awesome. It helps us follow up. And then we're going to move right into our question and answer segment. So if you do have any questions, please submit them in the chat box or in the question box, and I can read those aloud. Or if it's more in depth, you can also raise your hand and I can unmute you. So anybody have any questions? I do have one to get us started. Can each of you talk about implementation for your solution, how that process works? Everybody's all on mute.
I'm off. This is Alicia with Rockton. Our stuff is really simple to implement. It's basically a download from our website. So you just request the keys, or you can just go straight out to the website, pick the product and the version of GP that you're working with, and it'll download a zip file. There's a wizard in there that you run. So it just kind of whips through. It is a server and workstation implementation. But as far as the actual implementing after that, once the wizards run, SmartFill's already working for you. So very quick implementation time.
Great. And Mike, how about for you guys?
Sure. Our implementation, we have a guarantee around that. It's 45 days. It can be done quicker, depending on your sense of urgency when you want to get it done. But we build the SOW and the implementation plan with you very quickly after the agreement is executed. We mobilize quickly to have a kickoff call with your introducer, project manager, and 2 implementation specialists that assist you in getting the portal built and getting ready. So we're in testing, and we have all sorts of training and resource tools, including a new enhancement called the Walk Me, which helps you get adoption very quickly by your end user. So around the 45-day mark, we've seen most of our customers go live, and we actually refund some of the money based on the implementation fee if you help us get you live quicker.
Great. And Brian, how does it work with Journyx and your solutions?
Yeah, real similar to Mike's group. We've got a business analyst that works with you. It's typically a 30 to 60-day implementation time frame. That's really just controlled by how available the customer is to work on the implementation. We've sort of packaged a fixed bid solution for implementation. We call it Pro Start, but it's gathering requirements, implementing the solution, providing training. Again, pretty similar to what Mike's group does.
Okay, awesome. And then we did have a question come in about GPUG Summit. Will all of you guys be attending? I guess go ahead and just give us an answer to that.
AvidXchange will be there.
Yeah, Journyx will be there too.
Rockton will be there with bells on.
Awesome. Full house.
Perfect. 3 for 3. We look forward to seeing everyone there. And then one other question that we did get, I know all of you kind of touched on this, and it's kind of obvious that products integrate with GP, but if you could just highlight that integration and just maybe give us a few more details about that.
Brian, you want to go?
Yeah, appreciate that. So we have actually a few years back built an off-the-shelf integration tool that we call Account Link for GP. And whether you use a project accounting module or not, it integrates pretty well with GP. It's bi-directional, so any projects, cost categories, people, fields from GP can flow into Journyx, so you don't have to set that stuff up manually. And then you track your time and expense data in Journyx, and we can feed that back out through Account Link. It's sort of using a combination of eConnect and things like that to push the data back in. And depending on which pieces of GP that you're using and where the data needs to go, That's going to depend on how it flows over, whether it be like a timesheet batch or just sort of like as payroll transactions, again, just depending on how you're using GP.
Yep, at AvidXchange, it's very similar to what Brian articulated. We've done it a couple of different ways for as long as we can remember. We've done a simple file transfer where we develop or build a file format specific to your instance of GP, and then the AP person determines when they want to ingest a batch of fully approved and coded invoices into the system, or more recently we're in the final throes of training with a customer to do a direct integration with GP, where we've worked with a large consultancy to build this, where the GP user would determine when to bring that information into GP. So, and it's bidirectional too. We pass information back and forth between Avid and your GP system. We call that sync. So we're looking for updated vendor information, payment information, things of that nature that are important to expose at the invoice level. So that's how we do that.
Okay, great.
I am just struggling with the mute button. As far as our integration, we're written directly in Dexterity, so we don't really have any kind of an integration, so to speak, with GP other than our chunk file that you're going to drop into your code folder. So there isn't really any kind of integration back and forth other than, like we had said previously, we do integrate with all the third-party applications that are also Dexterity-based. So as long as they're all written in that same code, all of our products are going to play really nicely in there. But they're built specifically for GP, so there's not really that integration back and forth.
Awesome. We do have one question just specifically for Journyx and Brian. Does your software compare PTO hours requested with PTO hours available?
It does. You can also set limits on overages around time off, but when you're doing a leave request, the existing balance is visible during that approval workflow process, including being able to actually prevent people from requesting time off if they're going to exceed their balance.
Okay, great. Do we have any other questions? Just give people a few more seconds to type any in here. Okay, I'm not seeing any others coming through, so I think that'll probably do it. I just wanted to pop up this contact page here so everyone can see how you can get a hold of these folks after the webinar. And I just want to thank Mike, Brian, and Alicia for joining us, as well as their respective companies, Avid Exchange, Journyx, and Rockton Software, for participating in this webinar series. It's been a great 50 minutes so far, and I also want to thank everyone for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So this is a 4-part series. So we do have our final installment next week, just for everyone that's still on. We will be joined by ICANN Software, Olympic Systems, and Paramount Workplace. So if you want to hear more about them, join us next Thursday. And with that, I will say thanks, and everyone enjoy the rest of your day.